All right, welcome to the next segment in the Scuffed Late Night show. I'm Samir. I'm going to be hosting a panel all about working with business in gaming space. The concept of this is like getting to know how the different brands can get in, like how they use streamers as an element to express themselves and get their brand out. With me, I have
Aaron Lindy. I'm the programming producer for DreamHack.
And I'm Peter. I work at Komplett.se.
Philip Hoopner. I'm the head of business development at Challengermode.
Tom Hildreth. I'm a partnership manager at Elgato.
So we got a really good group with us, very like spread. If you guys want to take another round and actually introduce your brand as like it, you don't have to over-exaggerate it, but so we get more feeling to it.
So DreamHack is an international gaming convention where we focus on lifestyle gaming. We have everything from a LAN to esports tournaments, live streaming, tabletop, and convention plus expo. It's similar to other things out there like PAX, but we focus more on the lifestyle side of things.
And Komplett is one of the largest online shops for PC parts and home electronics. We currently operate in Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, and yeah, that's what we do.
So Challengermode is primarily a tech company within the esports space. We work closely with people like DreamHack. We work closely with some influencers too. Our main sort of business is automating tournament experiences, automating the kind of in between a video game and everything that happens between a tournament match being played out.
Elgato Gaming wants to create hardware and software products to enable people to live stream their video content or upload video content from wherever they are, making it as easy and simple as possible to create videos.
And I'm, of course, from Sverok, which is the federation in Sweden which does support a youth organization that wants to do gaming activities in all kinds and all nerdy cultures around it, like cosplay also, and a huge part in Sweden. But it's great to have you all. And I also want to say this show is also doing charity collections for Save the Children. So all donations will go for that. So keep them coming, and if you want to ask questions yourself, feel free to put questions in the donations. Let's jump to the first question then. What are the biggest advantages of working with streamers and influencers?
Well, for my part, I used to, at home, cast StarCraft 2 games, home, alone, and I got a job from it. So if you're an influencer that doesn't want to be an influencer and work with a company, that can be one way. And also, I think all businesses, no matter how big or small they are, they benefit a lot if they have a really good working. How do you say it?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Thank you. So yeah.
How about Challengermode?
So from our perspective, I think what's special about working with influencers is that that they usually have a very tight-knit community, and they're much more in touch with their communities than most brands and even most bigger communities are, right? So for us, that means they're usually much more engaged, their audience that is, than with a lot of other things.
How about Elgato?
Yeah, I mean for Elgato Gaming, a lot of the creators use our products because they create content to live. It's their job. So when they use our products and then they give quotes or testimonials or talk about it to their community or anywhere else, we know that it's genuine, we know that it's real. Everything that they say is truthful because that's what they choose to use when they want to improve their job and improve their quality. So it's great for us.
I'm thinking like DreamHack is really big, and you have like your streaming areas and such. So you guys must have lots of experience with it.
So it's interesting because a lot of what I see is that the influencers allow us to bring in different cultures and communities and diversities that normally you wouldn't be able to touch if you didn't have them. So not only do you provide interesting content to the world, but you provide interesting content to those people. So it comes down to an experience level, in my opinion, and just they bring that experience and the love of what they do from around the world to a convention and to different areas, and then integrate with everyone. So from Elgato to Challengermode to Komplett, we all sync together, and through that, influencers allow us to build that experience that we can share with everyone else.
Coming like from the streaming segment, there must be lots of questions that is asked to you guys. Do we have like one really common question that you like get every day or like once a week or something like that?
Can I get a free PC?
It's that bad.
Yeah. Hey, I'm streaming. I have 10 viewers every day. Can I get a PC?
It's pretty similar for me as well. Definitely every day. Can I get a free something?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
So really for me, it's when can I sign up to stream, and how do I stream, and what do you look for? Those are like the three main ones I get mostly.
Is that for the streaming area or
just in general?
In general, okay.
Yeah, they'll ask anywhere from how do I get onto a stage to how do I get into an esports event, how do I cast. Influencers have very interesting questions for me because they look at me as being the show, and I'm only one aspect of it. So it's like, yeah, you can go talk to this guy.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, we don't really interface that much with influencers that we haven't selected ourselves. There's not much outreach happening to us, so I don't think there's much in the way of questions coming our way at the moment. That's going to change in the future, I'm sure, but yeah.
All right. Is there like anything that would affect and increase the chances for like getting a free PC or getting picked or like getting a chance to work more with your brands?
Well, a really, at least for me, a really important thing is to have that you have a good idea that works and that wakes our interest as well. And just have a really good, solid plan on what you want to do and how you can help us and how we can help you. So you can't just, unfortunately, you can't just have an Instagram account and a Twitch account and just have a bad stream and expect to get sponsored. You have to really work for it and have a good, solid plan.
Yeah, to kind of feed off of that a little bit. It's definitely important that they have good content that's interesting and going to help push what we're looking for. On top of that, it's important that their community is safe, in my opinion, and not toxic, because a lot of times we'll come across communities that are very toxic, and that's not something that I personally like to endorse. So making sure that you curate your community and then help to provide quality content. And then be yourself, right? We want you to be yourself no matter what it is, from streaming to social media to wherever. What I look for is I want to see that you are yourself from when you stream to when you go engage with your community online and through social media. So if you're doing one thing on your stream and something completely different on your social media, I'm going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
Well.
I think it's pretty much the same for us, like the points that you touched on. If someone reaches out and asks for something, why not take the opportunity to tell me about yourself, who you are, the kind of content you create, what's your audience like? Because, yeah, like you said, you can't just turn up and like flash your username and expect me to know who you are. There's thousands and thousands of creators of all types on all different platforms, and it's impossible for you to know everyone. So yeah, when you reach out, tell about yourself. And like you said, I also look for people that are not necessarily like PG-13, but yeah, the people that are responsible, people that don't seek out like drama or like negativity around them. I'm okay if people want to be like more mature and like they want to swear, they want to maybe touch on topics that are hard to deal with, they want to play violent games. They don't need to be family friendly, but you can do those things and still be a good kind of role model or an ambassador.
Yeah.
I think the brand safety aspect is one of the most important things that you touched upon, right? It's sort of, especially in the case of DreamHack, in the case of us, we don't only represent our own brand, right? We also represent a lot of other brands. We work closely with the publishers, the game developers, all that sort of thing. So whenever we work with an influencer, we need to be sure that they're safe to work with also for them, from their perspective, right? So that's definitely one of the biggest things. I mean, other than that, I think it's mostly about passion and authenticity, right? If you're authentic, if you enjoy what you're doing, if you're having fun, I don't think there's any really terms of size or anything that really matters.
No, if you find the right guy, you have found the right guy or girl.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you find the right channel, we can say it like that, then and you just hit it off and everything works, then you can help, or we can help that channel grow, and he can help us grow as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think for sure it's definitely not about the size at all. There's been numerous cases where I might have had like a selection of people and I can only fit one in at that time, and I haven't always just chosen the biggest person. I've chosen the person that I think is the best fit for our brand, the person that has the best community. They might have 10% of the viewers of the larger channel, but in the end, that's who I want representing us.
Yeah, because it's all about consistency and making sure that we're partnering with them versus just using them as an influencer,
For
right?
sure.
Like,
Yeah, it's a partnership. It's
it
not.
is.
Yeah, it's not a one-sided relationship.
And in the case of us as well, it's like we use influencers as kind of the face of our products. We don't really do, aside from social media, we don't really do too much like in terms of like web advertising or like video advertising. It's all done through partnerships and influencers. So they are the ones really at the kind of the forefront of our advertising. So that's really the first, if people are new to the brand, they're the first people they see when they're looking at us before they then get to our own website. So that's, yeah, definitely the most important.
So to sum it up, I would say it's more like finding an ambassador for your brand rather
Exactly.
than like a channel who's huge and has numbers.
Yeah.
All right. The future is wide and a lot of things are happening. Where do you see like the influencers, streamers, what part will they play in the near future and longer future?
I mean, I think Elgato, or he touched on it quite well. Like they're ambassadors, right? And they're the influencers that you don't do marketing. You do marketing through the influencers. So that's a powerful message right there, because you're not spending money on marketing campaigns. You're not spending money on graphics. You're spending money on making sure those influencers are providing the content and the information to all of their users, and that's important. So from a DreamHack perspective, we use those influencers to help us market our event, and by doing so, it's a collaboration effort, because then we pull them into our event and provide them with that experience that they can then share out with their community. So it's a joint partnership, and so that I mean, you summed it up. Like, you're using them in the way that is, in my mind, where everyone should be going.
I mean, I think a lot of people or a lot of companies are latching onto the idea now of influencer marketing, but it's already been around for a very long time. When you look outside of gaming, really, if you think of kind of like the high-end fashion or perfume or watch brands, they've been using like Hollywood stars or athletes for years and years already as kind of like the figurehead of kind of like desire almost of like, I want to be kind of like this person or whatever. He or she is my favorite actor. They look beautiful with that watch on. That's kind of what I want to aim for. And it's been moving into like things using social media, which has then helped like grow it. And I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger, and people are going to put more money into it, and there's going to be perhaps more of these kind of like, yeah, companies with a real select few of perhaps ambassadors that are like the few select faces of their company. Because right now a lot of brands use a lot of different people and it's not really focused too much. So maybe that'll change a little, I think.
I mean, look at just a perfect example is Ninja, right? And Walmart. Like they
I'm
used
not
him inside of
familiar. I don't think we're
inside in the
familiar with
U.S.
this.
So
Yeah.
inside the U.S. they used him in Walmart,
Okay.
where they put plushies and posters and all this other stuff as a marketing campaign inside their stores, and that's nationwide. So that's a perfect example of using targeted marketing with an influencer to sell specific products.
I mean, as Tom correctly pointed out, influencer marketing has been around since, you know, television, maybe before that even. The only thing that's changed is that there's more influencers now, given that there's more channels for people to actually influence, right? Back in the day, it was just TV and maybe, you know, newspapers and radio where you could actually have a voice, right? But now you have a voice on Twitch, you have a voice on YouTube, you have a voice, you know, on Mixer, wherever. So that's sort of, I think that kind of explains the shift, right? And also probably shows you where it's going to go in the future, which is you had one big channel, you know, only these big influencers, and it's going to move further towards more and more distributed work with smaller influencers, right? Micro-influencer is a sort of new term and a new thing that is happening everywhere, where people kind of influence more of their families and that sort of thing. But all in all, it's nothing new, right? It's just a broader distribution of it.
Well, you have been saying all the things that were in my head, so good job, guys.
I'll let you answer first next time.
Well, let's move on. We have a really good panel here, so people outside, if you have questions, don't forget to donate in and ask them. You might not get the good chance to do it in a while, so we brought them here for you guys also. But moving on, meanwhile, there's always like a big no and yes. Let's take a spin to it and see like what should the business not do with the streamers, because I think normally you get asked like what from a streamer's perspective, like what should a streamer do and not do with your brands, but let's twist it up a bit.
We shouldn't, businesses shouldn't definitely ask the streamer or the influencer to change to just suit their specific, the business's specific need. As you said, the streamer needs to be himself or herself and just be honest. And I don't think we as a business should interfere too much with that. Just give them tools to do a better job and not interfere too much.
Yeah, I mean, to put that into slightly different words, I think you already said the right thing, right? It's basically just the main thing that I see some companies doing is kind of forcing influencers into their voice, into the brand's voice, right? And it's really more about allowing them to go with it, right? Allowing them to be a bit creative with the brand and with the campaigns and do their own thing. So I think they shouldn't be forcing them into kind of their own message.
I think one thing that brands should also strive for is to keep clear and consistent communication with partners. They shouldn't try and use terms that are vague or perhaps misleading. Communication should always be clear. Any limitations that you have or things that you aren't able to provide shouldn't be hinted at just to try and get something else.
Yeah.
It should always be clear and everyone should understand exactly what is needed or wanted from each side. I think communication is something that we should really keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really comes down to that partnership level that we've been talking about, where it's really, we should be partnering with them and allowing and building them and helping them build their brand, because they're helping us build our brand. And we shouldn't be just looking at how can we build, but we should be looking at how we can all build. And that's one thing that I think some people lose sight on, is they're like, how can I build, but they're not like, how can we build, right? So, and that's a lot of my focus, is how can I help you build? What can I do to make your environment better or bring your stream up to that next level and level you up, essentially? And then in doing so, that helps level us up, because then we get those dedicated influencers who will in turn always come back, right? And you then create loyalty, because on both sides, because you have someone you can trust and you know is going to be there for you, and then vice versa. They know that they can trust and be there for you, and that's a partnership, and that's a relationship, and that takes time and effort. And a lot of times people don't want to put that effort in, and those are the influencers that I shy away from. The people who are just like in it for a ticket, I'm not interested, right? The people who are in it and dedicated and passionate and want to be there because they want to help grow their brand, I'm all over it.
I think, yeah, the clue's really in the name, right? It's a partnership, it's not an ownership. There needs to be feedback, there needs to be activity from both sides. It's a give and take, and it's not one side is responsible for everything. The other side can also bring up concerns or questions or ask how things are going.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any tips on when streamers are looking to partner up with brands, what they should do?
They should have clear contact information. It sounds super obvious, I know, but so many times I go on channels and like on Twitter, they don't have an email address. You look on their Twitch panels and they don't have any kind of contact information. Like, what am I supposed to do? Write in your Twitch chat? Yeah, no.
And hope that the...
Yeah.
Nah.
Am I supposed to donate $2? No.
Hello, I wish to come in contact with you. Please email me at...
I've seen this with a lot of esports talent too, that there's a big lack of just this basic information that you really should be displaying, right? Email address is technically all you need, right? Like, how do I email you?
Yeah, but in turn with that, the really, really big point is reply.
Yes.
Do not just leave us hanging, because if we send you something, we're sending you something to get a reply and work with you. A lot of times I have to chase people. I have to chase them through Twitter DMs, I have to chase them through Discord, I have to chase them through email, and they won't even read what I send. So it's like, am I wasting my time doing this with some of these influencers? And that irks a lot of people for not, if we're putting our time and effort in to contact you, reply to us, because we're actually reaching out because we care about what you're doing and we want to involve ourselves in that process. So that's my biggest tip, is be active and be responsive.
And that's sort of going from the perspective of brands actually reaching out, right? I think the other part in terms of, you know, reaching out, the influencer reaching out to a brand, the biggest thing is just not to be shy, right?
Yeah.
Just to do it. I think you all agree that, you know, you're never going to be bothered by an influencer reaching out to you and asking questions and trying to get in touch. And you know, as long as you're willing to take criticism and, you know, be willing to actually have a conversation and not just demand, I think there's nothing in the way of achieving a partnership, right?
My emails on my Twitter, I will always reply. Like, I will always reply. As long as I'm not traveling, I will reply, right? You will get a reply from me at some point, and then we'll start that conversation. I always love when they reach out to me, because it's an easier conversation at that point.
Yeah, I think also when you do reach out, have a kind of at least a basic understanding of what you're asking for and what you kind of want in return. Not that you're just starting up like, hey, can I get a partnership? Like, what's your plan once we respond? And I think a lot of the times, at least for me, people don't really take the time to research the kind of partnership things that we do with a lot of people, and they just kind of expect like everything, or they don't really know what they want at all, and it just have a basic understanding of what an influencer is and what they do.
Did we talk about that earlier? Like, oh no, never mind. I lost the thought.
The whole thing makes me feel like it's like sort of like a Tinder. Like, you just swipe and don't read, and you don't even like write a proper profile or something like that. Hearing what you guys are saying, you like having communication is the key element of the whole thing.
That's really important.
Yeah. It's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like a mini job interview. You don't just turn up and ask for a job.
Yeah. Or imagine a relationship, like a private relationship, where you just don't talk to your partner. Yeah. How long will that work? It won't.
Don't send me a one-sentence thing saying, "Can I come to DreamHack?" That's, I will. I'm not going to respond. I'll respond to that, but I'm like, why? You want to send me a one sentence? I'm going to send you a one word. and we're going to go from there.
And that kind of brings us back to one of the points that was brought up earlier, I think by Tom, which is, no matter how big of an influencer you are, I might not actually know who you are, right? So when it comes to that, it's always good to have some kind of description, some kind of information about who you are in that initial contact, so I don't have to do that research, right?
Yep.
Taking away some of the barrier of entry.
And also not to make it sound like we're getting super negative about this part, but I think all of us would also have all the time in the world to be patient with someone and explain things and walk them through steps and make sure that everyone's happy with everything.
Yeah.
Too, it's not that like we don't want to respond or we don't have the time to respond. Like we will make time if we feel that it's worth it for that person. If they've put effort in, then we'll put effort in. It's the same.
Exactly.
I'm going to drop a good example of a streamer that I found called Light It Up Dan, British streamer. He had a homepage with his stream where it was a simple page for 4 different slides, and it was like about him, how you got in contact, what he was about, and who did his art, and like helped like emotes and stuff like that. It was like a package, and it took me like 3 minutes, and I understood his whole concept.
Yeah.
Feels like a perfect thing to do. Moving on, how should a creator get in contact with your brand? How should it go about?
You want to start?
I mean, it depends on what aspect you're looking for. As for DreamHack specifically, I have a very specific role and thing that I do. So if you're going to contact me about esports and you know that I don't have esports in my title, don't do that. Like, if you're asking a question, that's one thing. Happy to help, happy to support you. But ultimately, if you're trying to get in contact with me for streaming, panels, content, whatever, I'm totally fine with that. I'm literally online on every platform, so it's not hard to find me once you actually know who I am and then can contact me in any way. And I have most of my profile open to everyone so that I can be contacted for that very reason.
And unfortunately, we aren't looking for a new partner or influencer at the moment. But if you think that if you have this really good idea and you really want to help us, and you think that we can help you, if you see us at any expo, like at DreamHack or wherever, just come up and talk to us.
I think for us, it's sort of the same. We're in a place with our product where we're not quite ready to kind of mass onboard and work with more influencers, but we'll hopefully get there very, very soon. So that's a little announcement, I suppose. But no, in general, I think it's mostly about coming up to us, finding me on Twitter. That also works. Just reaching out in any way you want to, be it Twitter, be it email, be it in person at one of these events, and just asking, and that's it.
I think for us, there's 2 ways that are the best ways, I would say. The first, like you mentioned, is at events. But make sure that when you do come up to us at any of the events, you don't just kind of hand over a business card and like walk away. Because I'm sure like everyone knows, like whenever you leave an event, you come home with like a stack of business cards. Yeah. And then you start to look through them, and it's like, which ones of these like can I remember? And because that's what I always do. I kind of make a one of like, I remember this person, we had a nice conversation, I learned about their channel, and then it's like ones where it's like, I don't remember anything about this. Like even if I look them up online, it's like, did we even really like meet? Because you meet so many people at these events. So I think the event one is especially good, but take time to tell them about yourself, try and make some kind of connection and start building a relationship. And if we're not at events, then we have a partnership webpage where you can connect your either YouTube, Mixer or Twitch account, and then write us a message, and it says like, tell us about yourself, and it gives you hints of like, what kind of content do you make, what kind of audience do you have, where do you live, what do you see from a partnership, and then it gets submitted to us, and depending on your various regions, because we have multiple partnership managers, it will then get split to the person that's appropriate, whether it's like German speaking, French speaking, you're based in the US, you're based in Australia or whatever. So that's what we use, and that's pretty much always open for people to apply, and in case of exceptional applications, we'll always find some kind of room to make a partnership work. Even for smaller people, that we see that there's something from the first impression that we like, you'll almost always get a response.
I had like at my old job, I had a business card where you could flip it, and it had like empty rows, and it said like it had a box where it said like I met you at, and you filled in where it was, and then and we talked about, and you filled that in. I don't know if it worked or not, but I think it was a good idea though. But that's about the questions I had. Do you guys want to fill in with anything that you think we missed that is important in these questions?
I would say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to come up and talk to any of us guys, but also any of the guys at any other booths, messaging someone on Twitter, sending someone an email. It's not like, I mean, we're just normal people too. We care about our stuff that we work on. You don't need to be too scared to write out. Like, don't have so much fear that you don't want to message or come up and talk to someone. Just take that step and see what happens.
I would also say be respectful, right? We're going to respect you if you respect us. If you come at us expecting something from us, then you're going to get what you give out, right? So I'm of the mindset that if you come at me aggressively and expect me to do something for you and almost demand it, I'm not going to respond well. But if you come at me and with respect and say, hey, I'm looking for this, or I need this, or can you help me do this, you're going to get a way better reception from me than the latter. So I would say definitely whenever you're talking to a business, whenever you're talking to people, make sure that you're cognizant of how you're approaching them and what you're saying. And a lot of times, if they're in conversation, wait, right? They could be in a business conversation. They could be talking with someone else. You know, be respectful of everyone's time.
And I think likewise, just be mindful and be understanding, especially when when a business decides not to want to work with you at the time, right? There's always the opportunity to do that in the future. So I think that respecting it kind of stretches over the long term, and especially I think it becomes very important for a lot of brands to see that someone's been growing, someone's been doing their thing, someone's been really building themselves up, and they're still interested and they still really want to work with them, right? Like as Tom said, we're all people, and that's a type of thing that you remember too, and that really stands out.
We actually got in a donation from Boofu2K. He tipped $10, asking, has there ever been a negative situation with influencers that skyrocketed with success and suddenly wanted too much out of his sponsorship just because he's bigger now?
I mean, for us, yeah, we work with so many people, and sometimes people do grow. Maybe it's from a certain event in a game, maybe it's because they were part of a trend that they're doing. And yeah, you have conversations with people where maybe it's around contract renewal times or something like that, and they say, I've grown a lot since then. Sometimes I've grown exponentially since then. I feel like we deserve to talk about a new agreement and something that fits where I am now, and I think that's perfectly reasonable to bring up. It would be almost stupid if you didn't say something about it, and in the end, if you do ask and you start that conversation, then you don't know where of course you might get a better deal from it. Sometimes, unfortunately, we don't have infinite budget, and sometimes we can't continue if we have a good relationship and we think that it's more of like a continuing on trend. It's not just kind of a small or a large blip, then we'll take it into consideration. But from what you said, out of negative things, no, I haven't had any.
No, I haven't heard any backlashes from we've been sponsoring a few esports team and events, and the thing is that we unfortunately don't work with them anymore is majorly because of budget. So And as you said earlier, if we say no, it's no, not right now. That's the big difference. Come back in half a year or something, then the situation might be completely different.
Yeah, I think that's also the other important thing. Just because they say no, it's not right now, but that doesn't. But you also shouldn't leave a conversation in like a negative note.
No, exactly.
Yeah, be willing to be flexible. Because if you come and expect one thing and we come back with something else, be flexible, right? If you are a bigger influencer and you've grown, we understand that. We understand your market's grown. We'll grow with you. But as long as you're being flexible, right, it allows us to help push you to that level or go there. But if you're just going to straight demand something, it's probably not going to work. And we'll just say no. And that's a lot of times an influencer in my role will say, oh, I'm such and such, I should get this. And I will say, unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. And if that's what you want, I'm going to have to pass. And in a lot of those situations, it's frustrating because I want them there, but because they're making unrealistic requirements of me, I can't.
But I think it's also important from the other side that the influencer or the creator remembers that it's okay for them to say no as well if they don't want to agree to something that they aren't happy with. You don't have to say yes to something that you're then going to be stuck with or that you feel like was a super bad deal. Ideally, you would bring it up before then to see if it can be changed. But if after all the conversations you're still not happy, then it's okay to just say no and kind of leave it at that.
I think something that you both brought up sort of is what's really required is some sort of understanding of how businesses work, right? It's sort of how do budgets actually work? When are they distributed? Yeah. When can we actually make a decision on, okay, we'll commit to this, and when has all that budget already been committed, right? Like the fact that I think a lot of people don't know that that's how it works, especially amongst influencers. And I think just learning some of the basics there will already help them understand a lot of that and help them understand these decisions and also help them understand when and what they can ask for.
Another question that popped up, when you guys said no to a partnership, do you often get like a reply where they ask like why, and in a certain way that they explore and like gets more enlightened into that subject where you were going into, like maybe they find out that okay, it's this quarter, maybe if I asked half a year later? Is that common that you guys get?
Unfortunately, no. When if I get an email and sorry, not now. At the moment, we don't look for partners, and they don't reply back asking for feedback like, oh, can I come back in a few weeks? What didn't you like about my concept? Because we can help in that way and give you feedback.
Not that often. Sometimes people ask if there's anything they can specifically improve on, if there's anything they can do, if there's anything that is possible to do now, even without getting something back from us that can maybe help in the future. It's not super common, but it happens occasionally, yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's very rare for me. Like, they don't, once no happens, they don't really reply or ask any questions, and if they ever did, I would reply and tell them, here's why.
Yeah, exactly. All feedback is good feedback.
Yeah.
All right, I think the production tech guy is raising his brow. I think something's on its way. Is there something on its way, tech guy? In odds, in improvement? Anyone want to fill in with something?
I think there was one small thing that Phil brought up about learning how a business kind of works, and I think what creators and influencers also kind of tend to forget is that they're a business too. And a lot of people tend to think that they're maybe like the small little guy that is just trying to find their way in the world, and actually when you're talking with people, it's a business conversation. You are your own brand, your own face of the brand, your own representative. it's actually really a business, and I mean, with how people are getting paid, it really should be set up as a business if you haven't done it already. So don't come at it as like a little individual against a big like faceless company. It's really business to business in the end.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also misses like when they're doing it in the business way to actually like think, where do I want to go? What is my brand? And they just like, it's not just push on play and then play games. So I see where you're going with that. We still haven't gotten anything from the tech guy. Nope. Well, let's go on a bit. One more time. But
well, I can go off on a bit of a tangent here in terms of streamers and businesses, and especially asking for advice. So I spent almost 3 years working at Twitch, right? And I worked very closely with the partnerships team there. And essentially, the Twitch partnerships team's jobs have always been, I don't know if that's changed since I've left, but it's always been to help them understand these things. It's to help them understand businesses. It's to help them understand how to build their channel up as a business. And I think the thing that I've experienced most in those 3 years was that a lot of people are still afraid to ask questions that they just shouldn't be afraid to ask, because, you know, you're never really bothering anyone. Everyone's happy to help. Everyone's happy to help your channel grow. Especially, you know, we know that if we can help you grow, maybe there's going to be a fruitful relationship coming out of that. So it's pretty self-explanatory.
There are no dumb questions. That's really important to remember. Everyone is a beginner at first, and the more you ask, the better you're gonna be in the end.
I think there's also a lot of resources online that people can use to get kind of like examples of how people work together. I know, for example, I wrote probably about 2 years ago a reply to a Reddit thread on the Twitch subreddit asking like, it was actually a creator writing about these are some of the things I've learned from working with brands. And I replied as a brand saying these are some of the things I've learned with creators, and just gave some of the kind of tips and things. And yeah, even since then, about 2 years ago, I still get a message probably once a month of people that have read that and then messaged me afterwards or sent me a private message and just say like, thanks for this kind of help. It kind of opened my eyes a little bit and helped me understand a little bit more. And I mean, that's not the only thing on the internet. The internet's huge. You can probably find an answer to a lot of your questions if you take a little bit of time. And yeah, like Phil and we also already said, just feel free to ask questions as well.
Feeling if someone wants to reap the reward, you have to put some efforts into it.
Definitely.
Apparently the tech guy had us on false alarm, so we were all good. I want to say to the stream before we round up that you can still win in a few hours this wonderful PC behind you. There's a Gleam link you can click on, and you can still donate money to the charity. And there's 6 prizes going to be handed out at the end of the show for this time. My name is Samir, and thank you guys for taking time being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's really important to get the companies in and hear what they have to say, because you guys probably have the same amount of knowledge the influencers that are successful have also. So, like I think it was Tom that said, Philip, take the time and actually ask. Don't be afraid. And thank you guys. Thanks Panasonic and DreamHack and Scandic, and of course Komplett for having us here.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.